Welcome Spartans to Halo Book Club, a part of Evolved, your home for Halo. Halo Book Club goes beyond the video games and covers Halo's extended media lore, from the novels, short stories, comic books and more. I am your host Aaron, and with me today we've got David.
Hello everybody.
And this book club is going to be on the short story Breaking Strain from Halo Fractures. So if you haven't read that story, go and listen to it now, or read it. It's about an hour in the audiobook, so you get plenty of time there to get stuck in. Just pause this and go, and then come back.
Yeah, it took me less than that to read it anyway.
Yeah, took me less than an hour because I started listening to all the audiobooks in like 1.1 speed now. Makes all the subtle difference. Right, before we get started, we will get into the socials. So, if you're new to the show, welcome. This is Halo Book Club. It's part of Evolved. We host other shows. We've got Podcast Evolved, Mission Debrief, Builds with Blocks, Halo TV Plus, Halo Gear Guide, and Halo Headlines. Evolve partners with HCS Pro Talk. It's a podcast where Josh and Will discuss all the latest information within the competitive Halo scene, with an emphasis on the community. You can learn more about all of our shows by going to the website, evolvedhalo.com. If you're already a fan, we'd like to ask you to please take a minute to rate us and leave a review on your podcast service of choice. We greatly appreciate the feedback. And we'd also like to take a minute to thank all of our patrons for your continued support. You guys help make everything we do possible, including the constant rebuying of microphones for Lucas.
He's a dangerous man, my god. But also, yeah, thank you guys so much.
Yes, absolutely. I never fails to warm me every time I see that we have a new patron. So if you would like to learn about all the rewards and perks of becoming a patron, go to patreon.com/Halo Evolved. And finally, we encourage all of our listeners to support us through Audible. There you can enjoy the growing collection of Halo novels all in one place, along with various guided wellness programs, podcasts, all sorts of audiobooks. Go and use the trial, audibletrial.com/podcast evolved to start your free trial today. And for an audiobook recommendation, I will go with The Hollow Places. That is a novel by T. Kingfisher. It was quite good. Not too long. About 11 hours. Good little story. Before that, I did the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Also very good. And I am about to start Sabriel on the recommendation of a friend. And that book is narrated by Tim Curry.
Oh, I know him. That's cool.
That's all they had to say. It's Gareth Nick's book. The audiobook's narrated by Tim Curry, and I had it already redeemed at that stage, but I'm going to listen to Tim Curry read me an audiobook. So I'll tell you how that goes the next time we do a book club. If we do another book club, because we've almost run out of books.
Oh, don't say that, Aaron.
We are dangerously close. We are just going to have to read out recipes in the cookbook. That's what it's coming down to. I think we have one more short story and we are up to date on everything. Unless we really want to read the Spartan manual.
That's madness. We might have to. I can't believe we're done. I mean, how many years have we been doing this and we haven't run out of content yet?
We've completed Halo.
We have. We've just about completed Halo. That's ridiculous.
When they stop when they bring out the last couple of new novels, we're done. Everything's finished. We can quit happy. I will bounce through some book info, and then I'm hoping David will take the lead in the story, because as we've learned with the multiple attempts to record this so far this evening, my brain not working 100%. So, this story is called Breaking Strain. Like we said, it's from Halo Fractures. The author is James Swallow. He is famous for many things, including Star Trek novels, Warhammer novels, and the initial script on a couple of episodes of Voyager. May or may not have looked up his Halopedia entry before this. The publisher is Gallery Books. It is available in all formats. The release date is September 20th, 2016. That is not 4 years ago, that is 6 years ago. I need to tell my brain that.
Yeah, we're old, man.
I don't like that. The length of this book is about an hour in audio format.
Yeah, I've no idea page-wise. I only have it in Kindle.
I think for an hour, yeah, like 60, 50 pages is probably like a good hour. I feel like that's probably a safe bet.
Could be, yeah.
It's your standard short story size for the Fractures. It's not particularly long.
Yeah, it's a good chunk.
And then a little bit of a summary here. Breaking Strain is one of several short stories in Halo Fractures, written by James Swallow, takes place in the immediate aftermath of the Human Covenant War in 2553. The story follows the crew of the shipwrecked UNSC Dark Was the Night and their uneasy coexistence with the small colony of Losing Hand. So this timeline, like we said, it's 2553. That's the Halo 3 era. The location is the planet or the colony Losing Hand. I'm not actually sure. Did they give the planet name?
No, they didn't. They just referred to it as Colony Losing Hand. I looked it up to see if we could find any other location-based thing, but I couldn't find anything about it.
Yeah, it's an outer rim or outer world colony. That's about it. It's far out. Like, it makes Venezia look like a bustling inner planet by comparison. So suppose we dive into roughly what this story is. So
yeah, I can do that. It's actually a really good story. I remember bits of it, but not the ending. I think the ending is like not at all what I was expecting. But essentially, we're thrown in the midst of a situation that has already occurred. You have the ship. God, I'm blanking on its name straight away. The Dark Was the Night, which is a badass name for a ship, crashed into this colony. It was under attack by the Covenant, then it entered subspace, but got like severely damaged just as it entered. So it dropped out. It doesn't have an AI. They lost their AI. The pilot had to crash landed on this colony and tried really hard not to hit everything, but destroyed their wind turbines. And so in the aftermath, he became the captain because he was the kind of obviously the highest ranking surviving officer, and to lead the survivors. And then the town nearby, because they lost their power, he felt bad, so he kind of like set up a way that the power is siphoned from the ship and powers the town. And then you have a group of survivors that live on the ship, soldiers UNSC, waiting for rescue. And you have the survivors of the town, or the township essentially, just trying to have their lives. And they're very much anti-UNSC. They're out here in the Outer Rim, on the colony called Losing Hand, to be by themselves. They're very much your standard anti-UNSC people, essentially, in Halo. You've known them, you've read them before. And that's kind of where the story places us, with these two groups of people, kind of how they're getting on with each other, or not getting on, which is pretty cool. It's also revealed to us a little bit into the story that there is a Spartan here that literally just got up and left. This ship's it implies that the ship's mission was to bring this Spartan back to Earth, wasn't it?
It's like a military transport. I think he says at one point he was part of a chain of ships bringing him back to Earth. So Kevin is the Spartan. He's a Spartan 3. He's part of the Alpha class. So he's A282. So I think they said the Dark Was the Night was bringing him on part of the way back. He was on some sort of like big Oni mission that went really badly wrong. They mentioned that like the only thing Leon knows about it is that a lot of Oni officers ended up in hospital, and that was it, with a lot of injuries. So, and that Kevin's armor's like badly damaged and he has bad fresh facial scarring, and that's about it. So like they were bringing him back, they happen to get attacked. It sounds like they get shot through the computer core as they enter slipspace, and that's what killed the AI.
Yeah, and a lot of their main systems.
Yeah, and then Leon was the pilot. He was the helmsman, so he was the one that crash landed the ship. And then he's unfortunately like the man in charge. And he was, what do they call him? They have a name for him, like was it like a waiting officer or a serving wait officer? Like he was just like putting his time in till he could get out.
Exactly, he was just going into retirement, and then the Covenant War hit, so like he's not... There's a lack of respect they really show him, the crew. They're not too impressed by him. Tensions are pretty high between the group and the town. And there's a few interesting characters thrown in here. So we have like the leader of like the rabble is a guy named Ryan, and he's a sister named Aoife. There's a funny bit of dialogue about Aoife introducing himself to Darren, and it's pretty much saying, don't even try to say my name, you'll make a mess of it. But obviously we're Irish, so we know how to say the name, and James is English, so he probably knows how to say the name. Best of luck with any of the rest of you lads figuring it out, just reading it from text.
Yeah, I had to wind the tape back because they were like, oh yeah, my name's Aoife, don't try to pronounce... And I rewound it back and was like, did you just say Aoife? That's not a particular... And I was like, oh no, you're Irish. Please remember that people can't pronounce things like Nev. and they're really confused all the time. So yeah, it's Aoife. It's fine. Yes, it doesn't look like how it sounds, but it's Aoife.
It's a weird thing to throw into a Hello novel, but it's there. And pretty much like the town, they're fighting each other, they're getting drunk, they're like trying to like pretty much live, but like not really like each other, not really respect each other. Tensions are pretty high, and then they have one convoy up in space, kind of like checking things out, and that detects a Covenant ship coming towards them, but playing a UNSC message saying, "Hey, we're coming into land, don't freak out, blah blah blah," but it's an older kind of message style. Because the guy Darren gave access to the convoy to everyone on the planet. They're kind of like, hey, look, we're cool, we're nice. They also know about it in real time. So everybody starts panicking over the Covenant coming. Oh my god, there's a big town meeting. They are not impressed with your man. They have no interest in anything he's really saying. And your man Ryan is really building up to like attack. And then Aoife pretty much gives the captain a heads up, saying, listen, my brother's crazy, but there's others out there who aren't as vocal, but are just as crazy. So just be careful. They're going to try and take the ship. Darren is kind of like, oh, good to know. What can I do here? So he's struggling really to figure out like what to do, where to balance. So he tries to recruit Kevin back in, but Kevin is like very much a damaged Spartan, and it implies mentally too, and that he's just like not feeling it. He doesn't want to have anything to do with them.
He has a conversation where he uses the threat of the Spartan. He's like, the Spartan won't let you take the ship, and he's in the back of his mind is like, I can't get the Spartan to do shit he doesn't want to do. But he goes off to talk to Kevin, and you get sort of Kevin's part of the conversation. He's like, no, I am a very specific type of weapon, and if I'm around, people will get hurt. Like, he's traumatized by the fact that this Oni team were injured on his watch, and it sounds like whatever defensive actions he may have had to take on this mission may have been responsible for it, and he's not coping with that. So he has taken himself off to live in a cave so that he can't injure anyone, because he's like, no, you don't want me policing the village, which is a fair point, because there's always that like unwritten rule: the police police the people and the army defend the people, but the army shouldn't police the people, because Kevin's one training is kill first, ask questions later. But they end up having to go to this. I like the touch. When the story starts off, there's been a bit of vandalism, and Aoife has spray painted a few swear words on the side of the ship.
Oh, yes.
Darren has to bring her back. That's the first time he talks to Ryan. And before he leaves, he tells his first officer, turn the turrets on for a while. He's like, but that won't do anything. He's like, yeah, I know that they won't shoot, they won't do anything, but they can track targets. It's like, if someone walks up to spray paint on the ship again, he says, you really do take a second thought when you look down the barrel of a 50 caliber gun pointed at you. So it's like, just turn them on for a bit. Yeah,
that's obviously a really important point, that like they're bluffing with the townspeople, because obviously there's way more townspeople than there are Marines or UNSC personnel. So they're like keeping the peace almost with the unveiled threat, or veiled threat, I suppose, of we have big guns and you don't.
Yeah, they're using it as an illusion. And now it's a military transport, so like it doesn't have MAC guns or missiles. It sounds like it just has these point defense weapons. I think at one point Liam says to Ryan, is like, when he confesses that the weapons don't work, because the mob basically land out to the foot of the ship, and they're like, why aren't the guns on? Why aren't the guns on? Turn the guns on, defend us with the guns. It's like, the guns don't work. The guns have never worked. And it's like, this has all been a big bluff the whole time. It's like, none of this was going to go. And then he turns around and he says like, the dark was the night was barely combat, or what was it? It was barely combat proficient when it was fully operational. You're like, yeah, this is like not a heavy hitting ship of any description.
And I like that like when the ship is coming, they think they have 2 days, and the ship speeds up, and they only have a couple of hours. So all the townspeople band together, they come essentially take the ship. They've all guns. They even have some Covenant light weapons. So I remember the captain going, how did they get those all the way out here? The black market is like so proficient. I thought that was interesting. And then they pretty much square off the captain with lead Ryan. Ryan is very mouthy, and captain tries to talk him down. He kind of has none of it and kind of hits him with the butt of his gun. UNSC soldiers rush out, and it's a very tense moment of like, you guys are all going to die. This is just, you're just going to kill each other. And then when he goes to point his shotgun at the captain, the sniper rifle, Kevin has a sniper rifle, and he shoots it and just like destroys the gun in your man's hand. Runs up and pretty much calms everybody down just by his presence, and rational thinking and pretty much squaring up against Ryan, who quickly loses the crowd as everybody realizes, oh man's a Spartan here and we're about to go too far, which is really cool. So I liked this whole moment was really good. The captain's obviously not passed out, but he's kind of bleeding, been hit in the head with a shotgun, and he's trying to like get his word in as well, calm everybody down. And then out of the blue one, it just feels like, oh, we're calm, everything's good. The sky opens up, there's thunder, and the Covenant ship comes in. They do say it's like a light cruiser, right? It's a small ship, but it has sizable capacity, doesn't it?
It sounds, yeah, I'm not off the top of my head, I'm not familiar with it, but like it seems pretty similar to, like, I'd imagine how the Forward Unto Dawn was. They say it has the capability for a couple of drop ships and stuff, so not the biggest ship in the world, but big enough for the job. And then you get the cool scene where the Elite like walks out of the bay onto the planet and sort of looks at everyone. He has his like deactivated energy sword in his hand, and then the human comes out and starts to talk, and then the Spartan and the Elite have a brief exchange where they're sort of looking at each other, and the Elite goes to him and is like, or why do you seem like you're all prepared for violence, or you're all expecting violence? And Kevin's like, I always expect violence, but not today. And then as soon as that happens, like the two of them sort of head nod each other and walk away, and like they've instantly sized each other up and decided we're not here to fight.
A really impressive moment given like where we are in the timeline and where like Kevin is, in terms of like every other places have Spartans gunning for elites even when they see them, and this is right after the end of Halo 3, so we're not really in great territory here. But it gets kind of explained. There's also an engineer here, which is interesting as well. So there's an engineer, a human, a guy named Wild, something or other, I can't remember his name, and Yar Dosan is the name of the elite. And they pretty much explain that we're here as a force, joint force, going out looking for colonies that have been cut off communication-wise with the war. They kind of explain to everybody what happened, whose sides and who's on whose side now. And they're just going around trying to like make connections and find people and see who's out there, who's left alive, which is really interesting.
They say too that I think this is the first time they've found like a living colony, because Wild's like, we really needed a win here and this is it. So, and the other thing is, these people have been cut off here for like, well, I think the people may have been cut off longer, but the ship crashed a year ago, so the last message the Dark was the Night got was that Reach had fallen. So like they don't actually know if the war was over or not. They're like, oh yes, like a ship should have been sent out to search for us months ago, but it wasn't. That could be a sign that Earth's just like a charred ruin and we're all that's left, and we're about to like bubble over and kill each other here.
It's a very well set story. I like where it's set and how it's put together, and the turn at the end I wasn't expecting, and it's a bit, I don't know, I think it ended maybe too quickly, like too abruptly. Everything's okay now, of like this guy Wild offers to take everybody off on his ship, just empty the colony. You all want to come back with me? We'll bring you wherever he bring them. So obviously, a lot of the UNSC personnel take up, and a couple of people from the colony take it up. But some people vote to stay, so they like help to like take apart the spaceship essentially, leave it there as a generator. And I think the captain himself was going to say, and makes a kind of a joke at the end that he needs a badge, because everybody's always slagging him off before being like a sheriff, like trying to come in and take over. It kind of leaves people in an interesting place. So Aoife stays. I don't know about Ryan. He kind of falls off the story. I can't see him leaving, so most of them will probably stay. But it's intriguing. Like I like, that's kind of where the story ends, at a kind of like a happy note of we're taking people and we're going.
It's a story I definitely would have liked a full novel on, because I feel like there's, and it would have been one of those rare novels where you could have actually had it as a Halo novel, where the only interaction with the Covenant was the fight at the start, and like the entire novel could have been just humans doing human shit. And I feel like there's a full story here to pad out, just dealing with Kevin and his emotional trauma and humans trying to coexist. And like it's the sort of story I would like from Halo. Just, we're not going to have any fight in the Covenant. There's going to be no big Forerunner MacGuffin. It's just going to be traumatized people dealing with traumatized people.
But I also like up as well, they set up like Kevin is obviously not staying on his planet because he needs something to do, so he needs a purpose. So he volunteers to go on the ship and stay with that ship while it goes searching for other people to help protect it. And I think I'd like that story. idea of a ship going out into like more or less uncharted space, looking for colonies, looking for survivors. I think that's pretty cool, and has, dare I say it, a very Star Trek vibe about it.
It does have a little bit. You could have that sort of, Planet of the Week feel to it, just going from colony to colony to see who's still there.
And obviously you get like bad stories, good stories, but you could find, I think there's interesting things out there to find in that era, even probably now in Halo, where people are segregated so much.
Yeah, I feel like not every Halo story has to be about the big Forerunner MacGuffin, and sometimes they lose a little bit of track of that, because everything lately's been a pretty big story. Envoy was kind of close to a smaller story, but then it still cranked out the Forerunner MacGuffin at the end.
Oh, the big world-ending threat, yeah.
So, I would like a smaller stakes Halo story. Like, this has good potential. Which I suppose makes sense, because he's written a lot of novels and TV stuff as well, so he has like a skill for building a world quickly, because you need that for TV.
And he did a great job integrating himself into Halo here.
Yeah, I enjoyed this story. Any other thoughts? Do we have any... we have a little trivia.
There's two small bits of trivia which are like really Halo nerdy things. So they made me chuckle. Like the first one is that when Darren first sees a slight list with the Hergok, he says, the Covenant called them engineers. But it's actually backward. We don't call them... humans call them engineers. Hergok is their name for Covenant. That's like a really small thing. The way it's kind of said, and I was like, yeah, okay, whatever. I think people know that. And then it says, when Kevin fires a sniper round, he's described as manually cycling the bolt to remove the empty shell. But because that rifle is gas operated, the empty shell's already gone by the moment he fired. So when he pulled it back, all he did was empty another fully unfired round out of the sniper rifle. And I was like, that's some really Halo nerdy shit there now.
Yeah, I think there's a slight confusion between a bolt action rifle and a semi-automatic rifle. It's like, we don't have bolt action rifles in Halo.
Not really, no. No, we don't.
But I do appreciate an actually trivia section.
Yeah, it's actually populated, so we got something this time, which is good.
Right. Will that do us? What do we think then? Final verdict.
Final verdict is one of the better stories, for sure. I remember bits of it. I didn't really remember. I'm not mad on the end, because it kind of a bit abrupt for me. I'd liked a bit more. But I suppose that's... The negative is that I'd like more of it. Do you know what I mean? So I guess it is a pretty good story. I like it a lot.
Alright. Well, I think in that case, we will just leave it. That's pretty good, pretty solid. It'll do. We should have one more short story Halo Book Club coming up, and then we've got to wait for new Halo books. We are at that stage. We are so close, guys. I can taste it.
Yay, we won.
Yay, we did. Alright, well, in the meantime then, thank you for joining us. Like we mentioned at the top of the show, you can get every episode of all of our shows over at the website evolvedhalo.com. It also features links to our Discord server, Facebook group, Patreon page, Xbox Live Club, and all of our contact info. Once again, shout out to all of our patrons for supporting the show and helping make everything possible. Head to patreon.com/Halo Evolved to learn more. And finally, if you want to leave us a voicemail about this episode, any other episodes, or general Halo thoughts, or non-Halo thoughts if you want, because we listen to them all, even if we don't put them on the show, you can call us on 205-EVOLVED. That's 205-386-5833. And with that, I have been your host, Aaron, and until next time, Evolved.
Evolved. I immediately just hit record. I was like, oh my god, go.
It's fine, I'll hit record. Keep it going.
Okay.
And I'll sync them up. I just looked there out of the corner of my eye and went, you're not recording, Aaron. What are you doing?
And I'm glad you copped yourself, because we could have gone the full show without realizing that you hadn't made
Imagine. No. No.
We would have used the Skype recording for that one.
Yes, we fucking would have, and that would have been the end of it.
Slap it together.
Alright, let's try this again. Plan B. Take 2. Welcome, Spartans, to Halo Book Club. Jesus Christ.